morning and welcome back to Bringing the Zoo to You. My name is Nicolette and I'm an animal care specialist here at Brookfield Zoo. And today we are going to be talking about porcupines. These are really awesome mammals and we're going to be showing off two different animal ambassador porcupines that we have here at the zoo. We're going to start with someone you might be familiar with. This is Quilbert, and he is a prehensile-tailed porcupine. So you can see how he's even using that tail right now to hold on to Maggie's shoulder. Maggie's one of his trainers, and you can see that he's very comfortable there just sitting on her hand. And we're going to talk about a few of the really specialized things about porcupines and the differences. So you can see right now that he's eating, looks like some squash, and he's using those really special teeth. Porcupines are rodents. So they have teeth that continuously grow throughout their life. So they need to wear down those teeth on things like their food. Here at the zoo, they can wear them down on biscuits. They'll also chew on bark and wood. There's one of those biscuits he loves to eat. But out in the wild, they're going to eat mostly leaves, stems, flower buds, nuts, seeds. And out in the wild where they live in Central and South America, they're actually really important for the environment because they act as a seed disperser. So after they eat the food and poop it out, that's actually going to help plant more of those plants out in the wild. You might not find a peanut out in the wild, but that is one of his favorite treats that he gets for coming out and visiting with us. You might also be noticing those special whiskers. Porcupines, all of them have very long whiskers. And those are going to help them feel around their environment to find their way around and find food. And that's really important because they are nocturnal. Prehensile-tailed porcupines are going to be doing most of their foraging for food and activity at night. So they've got special eyes that help them see really well in the dark. And one of the most noticeable things about Quilbert is those quills. So some people think all types of spiky hairs are quills, but a quill is a specific type of spine. So a spine, like you might find on a hedgehog, is really just any hair that has been modified to be hard and spiky. But a true quill, like we find here on the porcupines, and also echidnas have them as well, those are going to be, they have a spongy inside, so it's a little bit more specialized structure. And you might notice the coloration of his quills as well. The black and white coloration is going to act as a deterrent for predators. He can also make those quills stand up on end, and that's going to make him look much larger. So there's not a whole lot of predators that are going to be feeding on these animals out in the wild, but potentially large cats or large birds of prey. So you can see Quilbert's little nose too while we're looking at him. And I think he has the most boopable nose of all the animals here at the zoo. So if you guys want to do it with us, we're going to do a little virtual nose boop of Quilbert with that soft, fuzzy marshmallow nose. Ready? Boop. So he was born here at the zoo and hand-raised by keepers. It was his mom Lucia's first time having a baby, and she wasn't quite sure exactly how to do it well. So keepers here, Maggie specifically was able to take him home and bottle feed him. So he's really close with his trainers and keepers here at the zoo, and there's a really close bond. So he really enjoys coming out and meeting people and coming out for chats and programs. All right, so we have another type of porcupine with us here today. You might be less familiar with him, but I hope you get to know him well. His name is Norman, and Norman today is being handled by Craig, and he is a Cape porcupine. So he's one of my favorite animals to work with here at the zoo. These animals are found in sub-Saharan Africa, and they are much larger, as you can see, than the prehensile-tailed porcupine. And Quilbert, Norman is one of the largest types of porcupines in the world. So you can see his quills are much longer, and he has those longer spines and that crest over his head. And he can make those quills stand up as a defense mechanism as well. So when he actually quills up, it can be almost 3 feet in diameter, and they can almost come all the way over his head. So that's going to be a really good way to protect him from predators out in the wild. Some animals that might want to be a predator of this type of porcupine is large cats, large birds of prey, or hyenas. He even has more specialized quills on his tail, so if he gets excited or feels threatened, he can actually rattle those quills on his tail. They're hollow and they make a really loud, pretty threatening sound. And for being such a large rodent, you might not think, but they can build really deep dens that can go about 6 feet underground, and go for about 20 meters long. So they're going to spend their time keeping cool, mostly during the day in those dens. That's where they would raise their young as well. And in the evening, they would come out and be foraging for food. And Norman is showing us how he uses his really good sense of smell to find food. Under these cups, some have food, some don't, and he knows exactly where to find which ones have his biscuits and treats under there. Out in the wild, Norman would eat things like root vegetables, bulbs, tubers, and at the zoo he gets a very similar diet, but it's mostly like a big salad. He gets lots of lettuce, he gets some biscuits, he gets browse, so he gets tree branches, because since he's also a rodent, he needs to wear down those teeth. Oh, there he goes. He found another one. See, he's got that excellent sense of smell, which is really important because they don't have very good eyesight. And these guys can actually run pretty fast, surprisingly, which hopefully he'll show us. That would be exciting. So he has a really good bond here with his trainers as well. He's been with us for a few years. He's 5 years old. And we've had him since he was a little under a year old. So he's very experienced for coming out for programs, and he loves training. So he's really food motivated, and he learns really fast. We're always needing to come up with new behaviors to keep him engaged.
Here. Good.
How long do these porcupines live?
They can live into their late teens and potentially early 20s. And same with the prehensile-tailed porcupines. I think about late 17 or so would be the longest lifespan that they would have.
What are their favorite treats?
Their favorite treats? Well, actually, Norman will eat anything and everything. We have to be very creative when giving him psychological and behavioral enrichment because those teeth are very strong and very tough, so he can get through a lot of different types of materials. But most of all, I think he likes sweet potato
Norman,
and carrot, but yeah, he's got an excellent appetite, so he'll eat anything you put in front of him. And Quilbert, some of his favorite treats are corn, steamed sweet potato, and peanuts.
Is the top of Norman's head soft?
The top of Norman's head is soft, so those hairs are much longer and thinner than the hard spines that are, or the hard quills that are on his back. And I should definitely note that no porcupine can throw its quills.
That was my next question.
Yes, they cannot shoot their quills. It's definitely a myth. What people really might be seeing is that these quills stick into the skin of a predator and then release easily from the skin.
Where can people find both Norman and Quilbert?
Norman and Quilbert are animal ambassadors, so they live off of exhibit, but they come out very regularly throughout the year for chats and programs. But we also have a Cape porcupine like Norman in the fragile desert. Another important difference between the spines of Norman and Quilbert are that Normans are not barbed, but Quilbert's are. So they have a little hook on the end, almost like a little fishing hook. And when that gets stuck in your skin, it is very hard to remove and very painful as well.
How much do they weigh?
Quilbert weighs about 5 or so pounds, and Norman, I believe, weighs about almost 30 pounds.
Can you remind us again what environments they live in? in the
Yes,
wild?
Absolutely. So Norman is going to be found in sub-Saharan Africa, and Quilbert is going to be found in Central and South America.
What are their main predators?
Their main predators for Norman, our Cape porcupine, might be hyenas, large cats, or large birds of prey. And for Quilbert, they could be large cats or large birds of prey. But as you can see, they have excellent protection. And you can even see when he gets excited, oops, sorry about that.
No, sorry.
He kind of puts his quills up even if he's just having a good time sometimes. And when they stretch, they also put their quills up, and it's really cute.
Do they make any noises aside from the ones they make with their quills?
They do. So they both have different types of grunts and squeals and squeaks. So they don't communicate that much with us, but they can.
Are North American porcupine quills barbed?
North American porcupine quills are barbed.
Can you remind us again how old each of these porcupines is?
Norman here is 5 years old, and Quilbert is almost 2.
How fast can they run?
I don't know an exact miles per hour, but maybe if Craig gets him going, you can see his little waddle. So he can get going. He can run pretty quickly.
And you can hear his
And you can
quills
hear
rattling.
you can hear his quills rattling when he's running.
Oh my gosh.
So Norman is
So
going to
cute.
spend all of his time on the ground, but the prehensile-tailed porcupine Quilbert is going to spend almost all of his time up in the trees. And that's why he has that special tail that can wrap around branches to help him climb. So Quilbert is not going to run very fast at all, but he doesn't really need to because he is going to be kind of safer up in the trees where he's at.
Do they have any favorite enrichment?
Yes, definitely. So for Norman, he loves all of the branches and stumps that you could give him. He loves ripping them apart. Sometimes we even hang enrichment. He can kind of stand up on his hind legs and grab it. And he loves, we give him large, they're called boomer balls. They're common enrichment for zoo animals, and he loves rolling them around and pushing all of his things and his rocks around. So he's kind of like a little bulldozer. And both of these types of porcupines will also scent mark their areas. They might urinate, and they also have glands underneath their tails that give off a very strong scent. So that could not only deter predators from coming near them, but also help them communicate with other animals in the area.
Oh.
The prehensile-tailed porcupines specifically, they smell kind of like a bad body odor, unfortunately for us, but they also like to leave their scent around.
Do we use any belt feeders for the porcupines?
We do. We have a belt feeder for Norman. So he is a really active animal. So we do use a belt feeder in different places throughout his enclosure. So that's going to help him kind of stay occupied throughout the day because he won't know when he's getting his food all the time. Sometimes it comes from us. Sometimes it's wrapped up in paper or boxes. But sometimes it just kind of falls from the sky and he can forage for that in his dig tub.
Do Quilbert and Norman ever interact with each other?
They do not interact with each other, but it wouldn't be common for them to ever meet because they're from different places in the world, and these animals are also solitary mostly in the wild. Either solitary or sometimes in small family groups.
Do they have long claws?
They do. They both have very long claws. Norman is going to be using his claws to dig dens and rip off bark, but Quilbert is going to be using the claws mostly to rip off bark and find his food and open up nuts and seeds.
So I know you said that the Cape porcupines dig, burrows?
Yes.
What kind of, I guess, living conditions?
Living
Not conditions.
Yeah. So
Living
up
arrangements?
in the trees, they're going to find holes that were, vacated by other animals, or just kind of, little holes in trees where they're going to wrap themselves up and cover their faces with that tail.
Oh, yeah, someone asked a question, what is a belt feeder? That's a good point. We
A
should
belt
have
feeder
started
is
with that.
a really great enrichment item that we use pretty commonly in zoos. And it's kind of like a conveyor belt. And it goes up it can be 12 hours or 24 hours. And you put food on it. And as it goes, you can randomly or semi-randomly divvy up food to the different animals.
And what benefit is that for the animals?
So that allows them more naturalistic foraging behaviors. So out in the wild, as you can imagine, they're not going to have animal care specialists handing them food and bowls and enrichment. So that gives them more of a natural way of finding their food at random times throughout the day, and kind of keeps them interested and keeps them from getting bored in their environment, because a zoo is a bit different than living out in the wild.
How do animals become animal ambassadors?
Well, that's a really good question.
What's their job?
Their job is to represent other animals in the zoo that you can't quite get close to. So these are really important animals in zoos because they give people an up-close experience with some of our animals, which a lot of times somebody might not get very close to a porcupine. You might have to only see it behind glass or far away, or they're sleeping and you might not see them when you visit. But these animals allow us to bring the animals up close and really make connections with our guests.
So I see that Norman has a station there that you've trained him to stand at. He's got some target training. What other types of training do you do with either porcupine?
Both porcupines are trained to go in their crates, which they love, and that's very important as an animal ambassador because they do go all around the zoo. We even are able to take them off-site and ride in a van, so it's kind of their home away from home and allows them to have a stress-free way of getting from place to place. Although Norman does wear a harness, and that's one of the ways we use that station there is we put a harness on him and we can actually take him on walks throughout the zoo. Some other training that we have, a lot of it is just handling and being comfortable around people. Norman does a spin behavior, he does shifting, which is important when you live in a zoo, so we can clean their areas and give them fresh food and enrichment. Maggie, are there any other behaviors?
Quilbert comes out, on our hand a lot, so handling is really important for him.
And all of this handling is also really important for their health and well-being as well. So if we need, a veterinarian to give them a checkup, it's great that the animals can be comfortable being touched, standing up to look at their belly or their feet, give them nail trims because they might not wear down their nails as much as they would out in the wild, check out their teeth and eyes. So those are all very important husbandry behaviors, we call them.
Okay, Nicolette, I'm wondering, what is your favorite thing about Norman?
Oh gosh, my favorite thing about Norman, it is that he is just very excited to see me every time I walk by. And it makes me feel pretty special, even though he does it to a few other people as well. But he's just so excited to train. He's so excited to sniff everything, and just watching him walk around and run, he just has so much fun. He's kind of a eternal optimist, so he's really fun to work with.
Can we bring out Quilbert one more time? Or is he away?
Norman, I think he's done for the
Okay.
session.
That's what I thought. But I thought I would check. All right.
All right, so if there aren't too many more questions, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for coming to meet Quilbert and Norman, some of our animal ambassador porcupines here at Brookfield Zoo. And thanks again for coming and visiting with us. Even though you can't be here in person, we really appreciate your support, your likes, your comments. Remember that you can always adopt animals here at Brookfield Zoo, and can't wait to see you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.